so other people can benefit from all of your guys' beautiful participation today. I think we're recording. Yeah, we're recording. Yeah, we're recording. Okay, well, welcome. I'd prefer if you guys turned on your video and you can leave your mics off, and then if you have a question or a comment, you could just turn your mic on and ask it. But I'd like to see who I'm talking with, if that's at all possible. So if you get a second, go ahead and turn on your mic. We're going to get started in about a minute here. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So again, if you turn your, if you're okay with it, go ahead and turn your video on, your camera on, so I can see who I'm talking to. And we'll go ahead and get started. So I'll throw out an easy one. We'll just start in order here. What is your instructor's name? Hello? Just go ahead and turn on your mic and let us know what my name is. Is there anybody out there?
It's Robert Kennedy.
Hey, ding, 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 ding. Okay, we've got first on our journey of success here with this course. So yeah, my name is Robert Kennedy. So if ever in the future you need to refer to me, you know my name. You don't have to describe me as some short white guy with a bushy beard. You could say my name and they'll get you to go on where you need to go. How do you get a hold of your instructor throughout the semester? Anybody chime in and let me know?
Via Pronto.
Yes, so Pronto, let me see if I can get back to, this thing blocks my tabs, there we go. So Pronto is located right here. And so if you haven't used this, you simply, to activate it, it might give you a window when you first click on it for the first time in this course of saying something to the effect that it's repopulating or something, or populating the course. If that's the case, just X the tab out, and when you go back to it, it should work just fine. I highly recommend you guys get this on your phones, the app for this on your phone. And the reason for that is you can, there we go. You are able to message me here. You can call me, you can get me on email, but that's not a very effective way to get a hold of me. My STC email, I don't check that on a regular basis. I check it about once a week, especially in the summer. Not much is coming in, so I don't check it often. I don't want that to happen. I don't want you to send me a message and I don't see it for a few days. So don't message me through my STC email while you're a student of mine in this course. You can get me here, but I get the Pronto messages in real time. So as soon as you send your message, I'll get a notification on my phone. Somebody's trying to get a hold of me, and I will typically get back to you almost immediately, if not within a few hours. If, given this is a summer class, if a half a day goes by and I haven't got back, let's see, try to message me in the morning and it's evening now and you haven't heard from me, it's not rude, it's not pushy at all to give me a reminder. So please do. That typically will not happen, but oops, but if it does, the reminder will be helpful, right? But I'm usually pretty good about getting to students. If you're getting a hold of me in the middle of the night, don't feel bad. I turn my phone off in the when I go to bed, so you're not going to disturb me. But if you have a question at 3 in the morning, by all means, send your message through Pronto. Let's see, and just to show you, this is what it will look like. Is this? Oh, that's for another course. Okay. All right. So there we go. I'm about to send a message there. So that's how to get a hold of me. Let's go back to question number 3. At the end of the semester, which grades will be dropped from the final grade? So if anyone wants to chime in and just share one and the amount of the assignments that'll be dropped from the final grade per category.
Is it 4 of the lecture exams?
4 of the lecture exams. So there's 8 lecture exams dispersed throughout units 1 through 5. There's 8 of them that can be completed, but at the end of the semester, 4 of them will drop. So, and this is true for the other assignments. Not all the assignments, their grades will be dropped, but so I'll get back to that in a second. So we've got the lecture exams, 4 of those will be dropped. How about video quizzes? How many of those will be dropped? How many video quizzes at the end of the semester will be dropped? For this one, it's per unit.
Is it 3 to 5?
5 to 10, actually. If I have that in the syllabus, I'll correct that after our meeting here. I think I changed my mind and wanted to give more that were dropped for this. So typically it's going to be about 10. I think for most units, units 1, 2, 3, 1 through 3 and 5, it's 10 that will be dropped. Gotcha, 3 to 5. Somebody, yeah, just open up your mic to respond to any of this stuff. But as you see here, let's just go to unit 1. So 10 of the lowest grades within this folder will be dropped from the current grade. So each unit will have a folder. You open this up and you see, oh my gosh, there's so many videos to watch, right? Really, you only have to watch 10 of them. You can watch all of them. So with all of these assignments that will be dropped, if you're within 3% of the next grade, so let's say you have a 77% at the end of the summer session, and you've done 80, 90, 100% of the assignments, and you've still earned a 77%, I will go ahead and bump your grade up, right, to the 80%, right? You put in the work, and so you'll get the benefit of the doubt and you'll get the next letter grade, right? But if you just do the minimum, you won't obviously get that kind of embedded extra credit. But yeah, if you're pressed for time, and I'm assuming most of you are, it's a summer class, and you've got time to do 10 and no more, then just do 10. Anything beyond that will not affect your grade, right? So we got video quizzes, 10 per unit will be dropped from the grade. We got lecture exams for the entire session, units 1 through 5. 4 of those lecture exams will be dropped. And not sure if I'll go into the details of the lecture exam here. I might put out a separate video on how to prepare those. Of all of the assignments, the lecture exams require the most preparation, right? So keep that in mind as you're going through these assignments. How about Zen audiobook? How many of those are going to be dropped? Oh, got somebody in chat there. More than that, right? There's 8. Let's see. So let's go to the folder. If you're ever in question, so at the end of the semester, 10. Is that correct? I'd have to correct that. At least 4 will be dropped. I think it's supposed to be 4. Let me go ahead and make sure. At the end of the semester, 10 audio. Yeah, it's going to be 4. Sorry about that. So 4 of the 8 will be dropped, right? And so while we're here, let's take a look at this particular folder here within Unit 1. So here's Unit 1. I'm going down here, chapter text and quiz, Columbus Indians and Human Progress, right? So here you have the text to the chapter. And wait for a second. If you get this kind of a window, this will open up within a couple of seconds. Click that, and the link should open up, no problem. There we go. Okay, so you got the text, you got a study guide. Go ahead and read, right? Once you're done reading the entire text, the chapter 1 quiz is there for you to take. This is, I'll just jump to the chase. 3 of these will be dropped at the end of the semester, these chapter quizzes. And go ahead and take the chapter quiz, right? So there's, but there's also this audio book here. So this is, you got 2 different types of assignments within this folder. Read the text, take the quiz, and then the audio book, which is the same as the text. Go ahead and listen to the audio book. Now, at the end of the semester, 4 of these type assignments, anytime it says audiobook and it's related to Howard Zinn's textbook, A People's History of the United States, which this is part of, and there's 8 chapters of this. 4 of those at the end of the semester will be dropped from the grade, right? It says 3, yeah, I'm gonna make sure that all says, yeah. 4 of the 8 will be dropped. That's gonna be a lot more manageable for you all, right? So for unit 1, for example, you could say, well, I don't want to do this one. I'll just read the chapter, take the quiz, and skip this. Or you could say, I'm just going to do this and skip this. Or you could do both, right? Probably a smart idea to do as much as you can in unit 1 so you can get your percentage, build the momentum up, right? Come in swinging, and that way you can kind of ride that throughout the semester. It's always a good tactic in any course that you take if you can move ahead, and this one you can. So the lecture exams, we've already talked about that, but 4 of these will be dropped at the end of the semester. The documentaries, I'll just jump to the chase of that. 5 of the documentaries. So these are going to be assigned units 1 through 5, right? Just to show you real quick. You got unit 2, unit 3, unit 4, unit 5. There's documentaries assigned in there. 5 of those, of the 10, will be dropped from the grade. Okay, so I think that covers what will be dropped. This assignment here, Incidents of the Life of the Slave Girl audiobook, none of these assignments will be dropped. So let's take a look at that right now. And so there's basically 2 parts to these assignments. One, you click this, and if you've not used Edpuzzle, when you first use it, it'll prompt you to create an account. It's free. Don't worry about anything. Just type in your information that it asks. Hey, great job, Crystal. Are you here? No? Well, excellent. Well, kudos to Crystal out there. When you see this, you're killing it already, right? So this is just indicating the progress, right? The student at least has clicked in. So make sure you're all set for that. You listen to this playlist of the first 6 chapters. It's about an hour long. And when you go to, I'll go ahead and click this, right? It starts with chapter 1 or the introduction. Listen to that. There's going to be questions in there to respond to. When you're done with that, move on to chapter 1 all the way down to chapter 6. And then it'll be complete after that, right? And then following that, you have a discussion on this. And the discussions, these will be in every unit. And so this one is covering what is posted up here, chapters 1 through 6. And so identify a quote from chapters 1 through 6 on how Harriet Jacobs' experience and incidents of the life of the slave girl shaped our understanding of how any of the following issues, racism, sexism, gender, patriarchy, slavery, love, ego, Christianity, or events in U.S. history. And be sure to explain how your quotes relate to, and my apologies, I'm trying to figure out if I can edit a post, but part of my prompt got posted out. So take some notes right now. I'm going to complete the sentence. So your response, you're basically going to post, going to click here. You're going to post a quote from anywhere from chapters, from the introduction all the way to chapter 6 that you see that helped you remind you of any of these issues. It could be more than one issue, right? Could be a 2, 3. It would be a pretty powerful quote if you were able to get all of this wrapped up, and it would probably be a pretty long response. So as long as you just have 1, maybe 2, you're in good standing. Make sure your response, and basically your response is going to be commenting on the quote you're sharing. This is an example of racism. Here are some further examples from the book to explain the context of this racism or sexism or issues of gender, patriarchy, right? That's social, political, economic rule of men, slavery, love, right? You're going to see lots of examples of love in this book. And incidentally, this is the book right here. This is basically the core of the course. We'll be looking at this book throughout the semester. Incidents of the Life of the Slave Girl by Harriet Jacobs. So you don't need to purchase this book. It's widely available throughout Blackboard online. But I would recommend purchasing this book. Have it linked for $4 in Blackboard for halfbooks.com. An expensive copy is $20, but you can typically find one used for $4, right? Or less even, right? So then you're going to go here. And what I highly recommend is to do these two assignments first. That's why they're at the top. And the reason for that is what is the percentage for the overall grade for incidents of the Life of the Slave Girl assignments? So refer to the syllabus if you don't have that in front of you right now, but I want to hear from one of you guys how much these are worth collectively throughout the course as a percentage of your total grade.
It would be 30%.
Is it 30%? I thought it was 25.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So that's a big part of your grade, right? Yeah, 30% of the total grade. So the benefit in doing that, of knocking these out as quickly as you can right from the start, is that it's going to boost your grade quite a bit relative to these assignments. Now, these count for your grade. Don't want to discount that, but collectively, these are 10% of your grade. So that means each video quiz is maybe a percent, maybe 1.5% of your total grade. So you're not going to see a lot of a large boost from doing these. You will see a boost, but not a large one. These you will. And that's important as we go forward, because if you haven't noticed, units 2 through 5 are locked out right now, and they will remain locked out until you earn a 60%. And then you need to maintain a 60% throughout the semester to have access to these units. So as soon as you dip below a 60%, you will lose access. And you'll notice that there's dates, right? If a 60% is not earned by June 14th, the student, I should change that, could be withdrawn from the course. It won't be automatic. And in fact, I won't withdraw you from the course. If it gets to that, I would recommend that you withdraw from the course, which means you would have to go to admissions to withdraw from the course. But to get access, you simply just need to go through some assignments and to complete them to gain access to the remaining units. So just keep that in mind going forward. If you're locked out, you can't go forward. And if that continues for the rest of the semester, this is why if several weeks go by and you haven't done any of the assignments in the units, well, yeah, then you're going to want to withdraw from the course. But if June 15th comes by, you've got a few assignments, unit 1 that you need to complete, some extra credit assignments that are located in here, which I'll talk about in a little bit. That's going to get your grade. 60% is a very low threshold, right? That's one that is basically the lowest threshold to consider passing for the grade for the course with a D, right? So it's a low threshold. All of you all can maintain a 60%. It's just a way of making sure that you're not ending up staying in this course for the entire summer, and then we get to the end of June and you're way below a 60%, and by then it's way too late. So it's there for your benefit, basically, to make sure that you're staying on track and passing all of your assignments, and at least at the bare minimum, going to pass this course. But you'll find that this course, even though there's a lot to it, is quite manageable. Keep in mind, not all a lot of the assignments are going to be dropped from the grade, right? So use that to your advantage and going forward. Do let me know if any questions come up, so chime in. But final exam obviously will not be dropped from the grade, and I'm going to talk about how to replace that in a second. But we've already talked about this. This is what's assigned for the course, along with other stuff that's available in Blackboard. So you don't have to necessarily purchase anything, but I do recommend purchasing this book. It's a great book. We'll talk a lot about this book throughout the semester. What is the replacement assignment for the final exam? What are each of the due dates for those assignments? So let's start with the first part of that question. What is the replacement assignment for the final exam? And this is basically, you can think of this as an alternative assignment for the final exam. So you can do the final exam at the end of the summer session, or throughout this session, you can do a number of these assignments that are available to you. So what is this assignment, or what are these assignments that can replace the final exam? Anybody got that? You're going to find it in the course. It's I think the one question that's going to be covered in the course, not the syllabus. I'll wait. It's okay to be confused, just don't stay confused. Go through the course, you'll see it.
One is a discussion with yourself and Dr. B.
You're on the right track. Are you looking in this folder here? Extra credit discussions outside the textbook?
Yes.
Okay, it's going to be in this one right here. See this possibility to replace the final exam?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. This is what this is for, right? I just want to make sure it's real easy to gloss over a lot, especially in an online class, since you're out there kind of in the dark by yourselves, right? So this is why this conversation is real important today. So let's take a look at this, right? So one, here's the complete book for, right? So you got the book. We start here with childhood, and so on and so forth, right? So there's the book. Again, I would purchase it if you can, but if not, there's the book for you. Click there. And basically, this is explaining the incentive program to replace the final exam. So let's go through this. As an incentive to engage with and complete the recorded discussions linked above, right? That's what that's referring to. Incidents of the Life of the Slave Girl reaction papers. If you complete 5 of the 7 reaction papers for the discussions listed below with a 60% or higher, and that should say average, so could get a 50% on one of them. Don't do that, but right, you get my drift, right? You will not have to complete the final exam. Basically, if you're in a 60% average, that will be plugged into your final exam. That's the lowest threshold, right? So if you're in a 90% average on these reaction paper, that's going to get plugged into your final exam grade, and therefore you don't have to do the final exam. So if you do get a low score on these, which you won't if you do these, as long as you pay attention to the instructions, and I'll go over those in just a second, you're probably going to earn 70, 80, if not 90%. And then you could easily use that for your final exam, right? And then also, if you don't complete 5 of the reaction papers in an effort to replace the final exam, but do complete at least 1 up to, and pay attention to up to, it's not an automatic 15%. So if you only do 1, it's not going to be 15%, but will be added to your final exam. So anywhere from 1% to 15% will be added to your final exam if you do 1, 2, 3, 4, up to less than 5. If you do 5, you get both of these things. You get the extra credit and you get to replace your final exam. So if you get a 70% average and you've done 5, right, you don't have to do the final exam. And most likely, depending on your response, the scores, you're going to get at least 10, like let's say it's a 70%, that'll probably come out to a 10%. If you're getting upper 80, 90% on those, then you're going to get all of that 15% extra credit, right? So you could purchase the book here. This is an Amazon link. I would always check half.com, right? So you see here, that's $25. I just saw earlier there was a copy of the same book for $4 on half.com. So do a little bit of research. But yeah, if you buy it new from Amazon or Barnes & Noble, it's going to be about 20 to 25 bucks. If you buy it used somewhere, you might find a used copy here. You're probably going to get down to, I don't see any available here, but if, they're typically under $10. Okay. Oops, got a chat. Let's see what's going on here. Half.com, yeah, halfbooks.com. Right. In fact, let's see what they've got here. Yep. So here's a copy. Hey, $4 right there. So what do you know? So let's do a little research. You'll find it for pretty cheap. If that was from this link here, let me go ahead and just put that in the chat. Got a thumbs up. All right, Katie, I'll take your thumbs up. There's the link. Go ahead and get it if you want it. All right, so let's go to the actual assignment. Let me get that out of the way. So here's where the reaction papers are, right here. Now, understand those dates that are posted in the unit descriptions. Those aren't necessarily due dates. There aren't really due dates in this class. It's just you'll get locked out of the course if you fall below a 60% once. Let me go to the course real quick. So what these dates specifically indicate is that if by June 9th for unit 1, right, that's sort of a soft due date for unit 1. If you don't have a 60% by June 9th, you will not have access to units 2 through 5, right? That's what that means. And then unit 2, right, by June 14th, if you don't have a 60%, you'll be locked out of unit 2, unit 3, unit 4, unit 5, and you'll have to go back to unit 1 and or do some extra credit to get to make units 2 through 5 available. So once you get the ball rolling, this won't be a large threshold. And do keep in mind that those dates are tied to specific deadlines that will kick in the overall grade, the current grade that's posted in the grade book right now. Right. So right now it should either be no percentage or a 0%. As you do assignments, you'll see those percentages crawl up. Once you get to that 60%, you're A-okay. I would recommend at the very least striving for 70%, so you give yourself some cushion, because what will happen is, let's say you have a 65%, it's June 9th, right? And then June 14th comes along, and all of these assignments. So if you take a look here, right, this the 15th, and I'll show you this real quick. These all have due dates for the 9th or the 14th. Yeah, the 14th, this is unit 2, right? Once that passes, all of the assignments here that are due June 14th, this is the only one that's due on the 15th. I recommend getting it done as quickly as possible, though, this assignment right here, as soon as you're in unit 2. But all of these assignments will basically be plugged into the calculation, and then you might see your grade, you will see your grade drop quite a bit if you are just at 60%, right? Because now all of these assignments are part of your current grade because the due date has passed. Does that make sense? Let me know if that does not make sense, right? So don't get comfortable if you're at a 60%. You can be very comfortable at a 90%. You'll still see maybe a drop in your grade if you haven't completed these assignments, but that drop won't be so dramatic if you're at a 90%. It might go down from a 90 to a 70%, right? And then you just complete these assignments and you might bounce it back up to a 90%. So that's true of all of these dates that you see posted here: June 20th, June 26th, and then finally July 6th, right? So make sure you're just giving yourself a good comfortable margin throughout the summer session to maintain that at least 60% threshold. Okay, so that is how to replace the final exam. So you don't have to do that. So if you just want to do the final exam, you can do the final exam. I'm not going to talk about that today. I'll post a video maybe towards the end of the week. I don't want to overload you right now, but if you're curious, the final exam is located right here. Right. Oops, let me change that date right there. So July 8th is the Oh, actually, the 5th. When is the due? Hold on a second. Geez. July. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I believe it's the 5th. I might have to correct that. It's when the final exam is due. I'm not going to go into that, but I'll post something later. But if you're curious, you can take a look at that now. Let me bring up the syllabus real quick. That'll tell me the end of the date, end of the course here. Yeah, the 5th. Okay. So yeah, the course ends on the 5th, right? So that's when the final exam will be due. But if you want to skip that, go ahead and do the reaction papers. Now, there aren't due dates for any other assignments except this one right here. And so if you are interested in doing the reaction papers, close everything out. So here's the reaction papers located in this folder. You're going to open up this. Again, let's go to the reaction papers. Pay attention to these due dates. 6/10, 6/14, 6/17, 6/22, 6/26, 6/28, right? And then finally 7/3. So again, to be eligible for this alternative assignment to the final exam, you have to do 5 of these with a 60% average or higher to plug that score into your final exam score. So let's take a look at one real quick. They all kind of work the same. They just have different prompts. So this is the first one that's due on the 10th, which is a week from now, coming up sooner than we think. Okay, this section we'll be discussing a focus on Harriet Jacobs. Her pen name in the book is Linda Brent, so you'll see her refer to herself as Linda, right? Linda Brent. Her childhood, right? And at least one page using the editing default settings for the font and line spacing. Just make sure you're writing. The only thing you have to keep in mind as far as the format is concerned is write in paragraphs, please. Don't just give me one block, and then space your paragraphs, right? Your response, and then note this sometimes trips students up, right? So this is a reaction paper to this video right here that I'll click in just a second so you can see it. But your reaction paper is in reaction to the actual discussion that's within that video, right? Obviously, the topics within the introduction to chapter 6, you want to include that, whatever we discuss, but you want to focus on what we are discussing, right? And so your paper should look a lot like, according to Mr. Kennedy, when he was referring to Harriet Jacobs' childhood. And then you could quote me or paraphrase me, or according to Ms. Cantu, right? Let me go and open up. So there's chapters 1 through 6, right? There's the video. You're going to watch this video and take notes based on the prompt that's provided to you in that assignment link that we were just looking at. I'll bring it up in just a second. But take notes on that. Watch the video, and then you're going to, in your response is going to be very much centered on what is discussed within this video, right? For this one, most of them have just one prompt, but for this one, you've got 5 different prompts to choose from. So choose only one of these prompts. So you've got 5 prompts, choose one of those for this particular assignment. The rest is just one prompt that you respond to. For this one, you have one. So I got a question in the chat. How long does each essay for at least a page, 1 to 2 pages, right? So that's how those work, right? So just be aware of the due dates. If you miss it, you're not able to submit it late, so you've missed it. So do at least 5 of these if you're interested in skipping the final exam. If you don't do 5, however many you do, will be added to extra credit towards your final exam. Don't worry about the format other than make sure you're writing in paragraphs and you have a line space between, maybe a double space between each paragraph. So yeah, you don't have a double space within the paragraph, just a double space between the paragraphs for these assignments. And that's true for any written response in this course, right? Just whatever the default is, just make sure you're writing in paragraphs and you got at least a couple of spaces in between each paragraph. Okay, so that's that assignment. And let me know if you have any questions. I'll definitely go back to that. So this was brought up. I wasn't going to go through this, but pretty easy to just go through this real quick. There's 2 assignments in here. And this would be something you might want to do right off the bat, because if you watch this video here, it's a discussion between myself, this goofy guy right here with a goofy smile, and Dr. Lydia Bean, who is an education professor here at South Texas College. And we go over something called growth mindset, which he's an expert in. And we have a discussion on that. And so there is a prompt right here. Let me identify that a little bit more specific. It's not. There we go. So again, make sure when you're responding to the provided prompt down below that you are focusing on what's actually discussed, right? And basically 1 to 2 pages, explain the difference between the growth mindset and the fixed mindset, explain the attributes, so on and so forth, right? So have that in front of you as you're watching it. You don't want to watch it and then go, well, what do I need to write about, right? Have that in front of you. You could take notes while you're watching it. And what these do, as you see here, what that indicates, you see that grade category, lecture exam, what that indicates is that if you earn up to 100 points on that, that's going to be applied to the lecture exam category for the grade. So let's go away. Yeah, stop sharing for just a second. I'll share in a second here. I'm going to bring up go back to share. Okay, share. There we go. Okay, so the lecture exams, they're worth 15% of your grade. Well, those 2, I only showed you 1 assignment, but both of those assignments in that folder can go towards this 15% of the grade for the lecture exams, right? Good opportunity, given that the lecture exams require the most preparation out of all the assignments here. The other assignment within this folder that was just in, extra credit, discussions outside of the textbook, is this video here by a professor from Stanford named, some of you might have heard of him. He's been quite popular on YouTube and Instagram. Oops, it's not on. Glad I clicked on that. Huberin. There we go. Breathing technique. This is something that I think can help you guys. It definitely helps me. But watch this, and there's a prompt at the end to respond to. It's about how long is this video? Let's see. Yeah, it's about 5 minutes, right? But you do this response, and let's see how much extra credit it's worth. It is worth points. It's worth 50 points. So put it back to percentage. So that's up to 150 points that can go towards the lecture exams. So if you do those assignments, you're going to see a pretty big boom towards your current grade. That'll give you the momentum that you'll be definitely grateful for as you go through the summer session. That will definitely, it won't guarantee it, but it will definitely mitigate the possibility of you being locked out from units 2 through 5 later in the summer session. Okay. What years does this course cover? Good thing to, what's the range, the years? You could be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. But when do you think that this course begins to examine U.S. history? What year do you think we begin to look at?
1492.
Yeah, basically, right? Pre-Columbia, so 1492, obviously, if you're not aware, it designates when Christopher Columbus came from Spain to the Bahamas. This kind of is it's sometimes referred to as the discovery of America, which is somewhat of a misnomer. It's definitely the discovery of the Americas for the Europeans, right? And it's going to launch a pattern of exploitation, colonization, brutalization, and basically Europeans taking over North and South America within the next century after Christopher Columbus arrives to the Americas, right? So 1492, and then what year does it end? When do we stop in this course? You could be wrong. Just throw out a year that you think that just maybe looking at the units might give you some sort of hint.
Is it the early 19th century?
Not the early 19th century, a little bit later than that. Somebody in chat threw something out there. Now? No. It's the first part of U.S. history. So there's U.S. history 1, which you guys are in, and U.S. history 2 goes from where it starts to.
Would it maybe be like the 1860s?
Yeah. So
Okay.
hit there is the Civil War. And so you might not know when the Civil War happened. It happened in 1861 to 1865. So we roughly end around 1865, right? So just good to know that. So you have an idea of where we're beginning and where we're starting. I sort of, have you ever been a passenger or driving somebody and you don't know where you're going, but the passenger does, and they keep telling you to take a left at the last second, or no, I meant right. I meant your left, right? That kind of a thing. And so this is sort of helpful to kind of know where you're going ahead of time, right? Instead of relying on just assumptions about where we're going with this course. Okay. And the last question, definitely no right or wrong answer to this, but is anybody brave enough? You don't have to be brave. You could just, it's no big deal. What is the most important part of U.S. history during these times? And this is a purely subjective, a personal question. So if you had to think of any important time, what would be an important time during this important moment, part of U.S. history?
Slavery?
Slavery. Huge focus of this course. Yeah, slavery is incredibly important. Slavery it's the main event during this time period, right? Right from the beginning, colonial all the way up to the Civil War, right? And the way the political structures are developed, the way the society is developed, you'll get a good sense of how society is kind of centered around slavery during the antebellum South. Right? It's all about slavery, right? It's not the only thing about this course, but keep in mind in the background, anything that we're taking a look at is connected to slavery, right? It's the main source of economic momentum during this time period. The production from the labor that is exploited from enslaved people is obviously worth in the millions. The slaves themselves are worth so much money. The land that people have is worth a lot of money. Got a chat here. How to go to work, but I'll watch the video. Okay, cool. See you, Katie. Thanks for joining while you could. Appreciate it. Okay. Anybody else? We've got slavery, which is central to this course. So that's definitely a very insightful thing. But is there something else that's interesting to you that you find important? Come on. Think about some major events. You definitely don't have to be familiar with them, but you've heard of some events that have happened between 1492 and the Civil War. What would be an important event that you find important? Sam, Angel, Alexandra, Sebastian, Adriana. Let me know when you guys have a response. I'm going to take a nap.
Racism?
Yeah, racism. Racism is a very important part of U.S. history, right? Obviously predicated on slavery. Keep in mind, slavery is not unique to U.S. history. Slavery is as old as time. Human beings have been enslaving each other since civilization has began. But what is specific about the slavery in the United States is it's race-based, right? And this is true for slavery in South America and North America. Since we're studying US history, we're going to focus on US history. But yeah, racism, the very concept of race, the fact that that's even a thing is because of slavery, right? It was a way of dividing up the lower classes. There was a time, that we'll study that in the second lecture for this semester, Race, Class, and Slavery, which takes a look at Jamestown, the development of Jamestown. And the first labor pool that plantation owners used were poor English people, for the most part, right? And so an indentured servant is somebody that couldn't pay their way over across the Atlantic Ocean. And so they would work from 3 to perhaps up to 7 years, basically as an enslaved person. And at the end of their contract, whatever that would be, between 3 and 7 years, they would be given their freedom. They would be given land, usually up to 50, maybe 100 acres, some tools to farm, a gun, right? And that's how it worked out. Well, as more and more English people came, you also had, at first in the early 1600s, some Africans coming in, not as enslaved people. They were indentured servants as well. All right, they were considered servants. But this is going to create a large pool of labor between English and African, right? Not white and black. That's race that doesn't exist yet. People don't identify in the early 1600s by race. They clearly see differences between people, but as far as their appearance, and so if you were English, you would say these Africans, right, over there, or Negroes might be used, right? But the idea of being black or being white doesn't exist. And how that comes about is, as the cost of commodities like tobacco, the price that a plantation owner is able to begins to plummet because you got so many plantations beginning to develop, price, law and supply and demand kick in, the price drops. Labor becomes more expensive for a variety of reasons that we'll talk about later in the semester, right? And so by the time we get to, Jamestown is founded in 1607. The plantation industry begins in 1620. So for a good 30 years, it was almost 100% indentured servants. Around the 1650s, 1660s, you'll begin to see English colonists plug into the pre-existing slave trade that Portugal had enterprised, where they were taking people from Africa and mainly bringing them to the Bahamas, the Caribbean islands, and to South America like Brazil. English colonies are going to start getting in that for economic reasons, beginning in the 1660s. And this is where we begin to see the concept of race develop, right? In order to divide and conquer this class of people that develop the labor, right? These people develop an identity based on class rather than race, right? English, African. If you're an English person, you're working with an African person, you aren't going to have any kind of hatred or suspicion or derogatory thoughts towards that person. That person, you depend on that person. You're working with that person. You might be friends with that person. You might meet someone that you eventually marry that is from Sierra Leone, right? Have children with that person. But beginning in the 1660s, we'll see the planter elite class leveraging government in order to divide these people up. And this is a lot of details to this, but this is where you'll see the emergence of white and black. And predicated on being black is the permanent designation of being a second-class citizen and of being an enslaved person. Where if you're white, that's not going to apply to you, right? And you will at least have an opportunity, if you have a little bit of luck, hard work, to move yourself up, where that is going to be completely non-existent to anybody of African descent, right? So we'll leave it at that. It's there's definitely, we could go into the American Revolution, the Civil War, we can go into Jacksonian, right, all that stuff, but we'll lay that stuff out as we get deeper into the semester. Any questions you guys have, or just need clarification on anything? Okay, well, just to recap, and do chime in if you have any questions. I highly recommend going through chapters 1 through 6 and then completing this assignment. And even though you have till the 9th and to the 10th to complete these assignments, so you don't get locked out of Unit 2, I would recommend trying to get these done by Wednesday. All right, so you can move on to some of these assignments here to get your grade up. And let me revisit this one real quick. I want to go through at least one of these terms. So you can comment on any of these terms. This term here might need a little explanation, ego, right? So you've heard this word before, ego. It's usually a way of describing somebody. That person's egotistical, right? And you have a concept of your mind of what that means, right? Somebody who's is either really inflated of themselves, right? They are cocky. They have a grandiose perception of themselves. They exert their will on other people without any kind of self-reflection. They usually might have a lot of things, right? So a person who's kind of based in ego is going to purchase lots of stuff to make themselves bigger, literally, right? To spread themselves out, bigger house, bigger car, right? All these kind of stuff, more money, right? More girls, women, men, right? Whatever your game is. That's ego. Now, you could have an ego and not be inflated. You could be a very deflated person. Essentially, what ego is, it's a psychological term, sometimes a spiritual term, often a spiritual term, is a belief that the words in your mind are real. The words in your mind are real, is what ego is getting at. And that is usually a highway to a disastrous life and for those around that person, because the words in our mind, they don't exist, right? They're concepts. They are attributes. They are legacies from our ancestors, right? And a lot of what we do in history is we begin to, if you want it, well, what am I going to get out of this class? The answer to that is you'll begin to recognize some of the dead voices in your head. There's dead people constantly talking to you, right? And what I'm getting at there is name one thought, one idea, one value you have that you came up with, right? Maybe. Let me know if that's the case, because you would be a really interesting person. But almost, I'm talking to everybody on this planet. Everything we think, that we hold dear to, that we are, that we're want to push away, everything in our mind comes from dead people, right? Thomas Jefferson, Harriet Jacobs, Billie Holiday, Jimi Hendrix, George Washington, Napoleon, right? These people spoke, they wrote words down, they were described by other people. And this is what history is all about, right? All of that is passed down, whether you're aware of it or not, to formulate your consciousness. And so ego, you're going to see a lot of ego in this book from mainly the enslavers, people who owned other people. And by definition, if you own other people, you have an inflated ego, right? You're exerting your will on another person. And you'll see these people literally believe that they are superior. And those are just words. White supremacy, everything that goes with white supremacy, those are just words. They're not real. It's just a mind game that has been developed through history, the history that we are studying, that gave people these assumptions about their place in this world as being superior to other people, and gave them the power, and in their mind, the right, they didn't have that right, but in their mind they did, to exert their will on other people. This is what slavery is. And you'll see a lot of that depicted. So if you want to write about ego, look to people who actually believe and are imbuing meaning into the world from this part of their brain. This is where the ego exists, right? Sometimes called the third eye, right? It's actually the frontal cortex, where consciousness is, whatever, I'm doing bro science here, but it's where the synapses fire off and thoughts happen, right? These people literally are imbuing meaning into the world from that, as opposed to what you'll find with Harriet Jacobs. You're going to find that at least maybe you'll come to different conclusions, but despite her degraded circumstances, being an enslaved person, she operates from love. Tremendous amount of dignity she has in her life. In her interactions with other people, she's definitely connected to other people, where the people who own her, the Flints, are some people, she's owned by quite a few people, but the Flints are definitely disconnected people, Dr. Flint and Mrs. Flint, disconnected to the core. They have no sense of humanity. They have no sense of their own vulnerability. And so if somebody's operating from love rather than from ego, is able to recognize the stark reality of this existence, that we're all going to end up in the same place. We're all faced with the same predicament. We're all going to die. And usually death, it doesn't end very well, right? It's not like the movies where you just, oh, God, tell my wife I love her, right? No, it's usually painful, quite pathetic, very vulnerable, beautiful in some ways if you have a beautiful death, if that can be said. But someone operating from love recognizes that we're all in that same predicament, right? And you get a strong sense that Harriet and some of the other characters in this book operate from that, from love rather than ego. So that's what I just wanted to say about that. Other than that, I'll let you guys go. We've been going on for a good hour here, so let's leave it at that. I will be posting other videos on the lecture exam and the final exam, right? So with that said, if you got the time right now, half an hour, amazing what you can get done in a half an hour. See if you can get a chapter or two done within that half hour. Maybe tonight you'll have another hour or so that you can start working on this again. Tomorrow morning you wake up, another half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, right? You want to do this in chunks. You definitely don't want to wait for motivation, right? You're not going to get motivated to do this stuff. The simple truth of the matter is you have to operate from discipline, right? You just have to be disciplined and stick to some sort of schedule that you can regularly adhere to throughout the week, right? Other than that, I can hang out for as long as anybody needs me, but I got nothing else to say. I'll be chiming in a little bit later. I might be doing a weekly, starting next week, a weekly video conference. It'll be in the evenings, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. I haven't decided yet. It'll be recorded, where we'll go over some of the book, right? We'll start with chapters 1 through 6, for instance, and we can have a discussion there about some of the major aspects of this book, right? But I'll talk more about that later. Got something in chat here, so have a great day. We can ask more questions. Yes, please do. And again, I should get back to you pretty quickly if you send me a message on Pronto, but if a half a day goes by, it's not rude, it's not pushy for you to remind me that I didn't get back to you. That typically doesn't happen, but if it does, this is your education, right? I'm just in service to you for that education, so put me to work. Okay, guys, we'll leave it at that. Get me on Pronto if any questions come up. And just remember, it's okay to be confused. Just don't stay confused, right? I'm right here for you, so get me there. Okay, stop share. Oh, I got one more message. Oh. Oh, thank you for the information. Oh, yeah, certainly. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, excellent. You guys have a great evening or afternoon, whatever. And I'll talk with you later. Get me on Pronto when things come up.